are the book that lights the spark, that ignites the tradition, that fills the classroom. You are the ticket that launches a journey, that awakens an identity, lights the spark, the fuel that powers the change, that betters the world. Across town, across oceans, you are there in the darkest of times, and no matter how furious the storm, you are there to rebuild. You have the power to do whatever must be done to strengthen our community, now and into the future.
Good evening. Welcome to the kickoff of the 2021 Savannah Jewish Federation Annual Community Campaign. While we're not all sitting in the auditorium at the JA together tonight, we are thankful to all be joining together virtually. Let's take an hour this evening to put politics aside and focus on the important work that the Savannah Jewish Federation does. The event may look a bit different this year, but one thing will remain the same. We will celebrate and support the Jewish community in Savannah and around the world with the essential dollars that are raised. It may not be business as usual, but it is mission as usual, and your support is needed now more than ever. You can go online and make your pledge tonight. Jamie is posting the link. I would like to invite Kenneth Sadler, Savannah Jewish Federation President, to say a few words of welcome.
Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the 2021 Campaign Kickoff event. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kenneth Sadler, the president of the Federation. The vision of the Savannah Jewish Federation states that through its annual campaign, the Federation is the primary collector and distributor of funds for Jewish causes in Savannah, in Israel, and 56 countries throughout the world. This vision would not be possible without the hard work and dedication of those volunteers that step up to make phone calls, set the meetings, and to make that campaign ask. I would like to acknowledge the 2021 Savannah Jewish Federation Campaign Leadership Team. Although the campaign is officially kicking off tonight, these guys have been hard at work for weeks, planning, making calls, and getting the campaign set up for success. Because of their hard work, the 2021 campaign has already raised $315,000. That's an 8% increase card over card, with more than 50% of the pledges of the donors increasing their pledges. So thank you to Michelle Allen, our 2021 campaign chair, Hillary Kronowitz, the 2021 Women's Campaign Chair, and Benjamin and David Eichels, the 2021 Men's Co-Chairs. Thank y'all guys for stepping up and not only taking leadership roles in the campaign, but your ideas and, more importantly, your passion for the work that the dollars raised allow the Savannah Jewish Federation to accomplish. I look forward to standing before you, hopefully in person, at the 2021 Federation Annual Meeting in September to acknowledge all of you who I know are going to make those calls, set those meetings, and ask for those dollars. I look forward to acknowledging your hard work and yet letting you know that we met our campaign goal. In order for me to do that, we are asking for your help in making your gift to the 2021 Federation Annual Campaign, volunteering to make the calls, and encouraging others to give what they can. Remember, you can make your pledge at sjf2021.givesmart.com or email jamie@savj.org. Thank you all for showing up tonight, and I look forward to an exciting event.
And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in the absence of people living in mindless, heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices, and dreamed new images, and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed.
I am so honored to have been asked to co-chair the 2021 Savannah Jewish Federation Men's Campaign, along with my son, David. Our family has a long history in Savannah, and we feel passionately about the Savannah Jewish community. It has been a challenging year, but even through it all, the Savannah Jewish Federation never shut down, never stopped making a difference in Savannah and around the world. As soon as coming together each Thursday for lunch at Food for Thought, the Savannah Jewish Federation began delivering meals to those that were in need, those who were most vulnerable, and those who couldn't leave their homes. We have since delivered over 4,000 meals. When the world shut down, Jewish Family Services continued to provide assistance to those who were in need through rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. Daily living expenses such as groceries, clothing, and prescription medications. Engagement continued with virtual programs for our BBYO teens, PJ Library families, and young Jewish Savannah adults. We provided a connection to the Jewish community and to each other. The Savannah Jewish Federation coordinated community organizations to assist in the PPP loan application process, and when things began opening again, the Federation purchased PPE materials such as masks, sanitizers, and thermometers. Federation's Community Relations Council continued to be active, standing up for the Jewish community and standing by the communities that needed us. Our mantra for this year is, it may not be business as usual, but it is mission as usual. It is because of generous donors like you that this work is possible. It doesn't look like things will get easier in the next few months, and that is why your support is needed now more than ever. Thank you for picking up the phone when solicitor calls to ask for your campaign gift. Thanks for giving from your heart, and thank you to those who are helping to make the calls to raise these quite important funds. Thank you for everything that you are doing to make this year's campaign a reality, and very good success.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. As a 2021 Women's Campaign Chair, I'm honored to introduce our speaker this evening. Tonight, we welcome Simone Canigo to our very real but virtual Campaign 2020. I have both the dates wrong, but the kickoff for this year. She, like us, has witnessed the difference that Jewish federations can make both locally and across the globe. It is part of her own inspiring personal journey. And I'm having technical difficulties. Simone began her professional life as a certified public accountant in Tyler, Texas. 5 years later, she moved to Sarasota, Florida, where she went back to school to become a teacher and began working in the classroom. Later, she founded a medical distributorship, which she currently owns and manages. While she's no longer working in the classroom, those years of teaching opened her eyes to the roles schools can play in providing children with stability, especially those children who may not experience the comfort of constancy at home. In Florida, Simone joined the board of the Sarasota Manatee Jewish Federation because she believed in Jewish Federation's focus on making the world a better place for all people. She served on the board, serving on the board, she was selected as the 2016 Doris Levner Memorial Young Leadership Award winner. Since then, she's also served as the 2018-2019 co-chair of the Jewish Federations of North America National Young Leadership Cabinet. Simone's work with Federation led her to realize that she could inspire others to dedicate time and resources to projects, both personal and charitable, that can make a difference in people's lives. Simone has shared this message with numerous audiences. In doing so, she's discovered another passion: public speaking. She knows that what you do every day matters and inspires others. By sharing your story, you can motivate and encourage those around you, and in doing so, change the world. Simone lives by those words. While involved with the Federation, she also pursues other passions. In 2015, she climbed Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds and awareness for the Livestrong Foundation. She's traveled on several philanthropic and international missions, including medical missions with her husband, Rob, who's a neurosurgeon. They've been married for 27 years and have 6 children. And to top it off, Simone just published her first book, The Extraordinary, Unordinary You. Simone, while you're joining us virtually, it is my privilege to extend to you a warm Savannah welcome and hope you will come see us when we can all meet again in person. Welcome, Simone.
Thank you so much, Hillary. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. There's a lot happening right now, so we are extremely grateful that you are here. I know we are all concerned and at times feel overwhelmed with the state of our world. Like everyone else, I'm navigating situations and making choices that I never thought I would have to deal with. With the events of COVID-19, everything has changed, and we've changed as a people. Zoom has become the connector. Social distancing has become a new catchphrase, and masks are no longer just for bandits and superheroes. My aunt died from COVID-19. She lived an amazing 94 years, but she died alone. COVID-19 has reminded us that we may not be able to control what's happening in our world, but we can control how we respond to it. I always try to look for the silver lining. I'm not saying that I don't have moments where I feel completely unmotivated or sad because of the pandemic or the current state of our world. I'm human. But when those moments happen, I think about my blessings. I focus on the little things I can do to make myself feel better. For me, those little things usually involve spending time with family and reaching out and helping others, bringing supplies to elderly neighbors and masks to coworkers, calling my mom every day so that we know that she's okay, and giving what we can, even when we're unsure of our own financial future. We need to support one another. We must stop comparing our lives today to life as we planned it, so we can embrace the life that's waiting for us. With 3 kids away at university, it's a rare occasion to have everyone home together under one roof. When schools went virtual in March, everyone came home. We had lively discussions at the dinner table every night, and the kids actually ate what I had cooked, probably thankful to not have to eat cafeteria food. My house was never cleaner, and all of my kids learned how to wash their own clothes, mop the floor, and scrub the toilets. I guess it's the little things that make me happy. On November 22nd, I will have all of my kids back under one roof again for at least the next 3 months. Although these have been extremely challenging times for all of us in many ways, this time at home, socially distancing, socially isolating, has made me realize those things that are truly important to me. From this part of our family story, I want our kids to remember the quality time we've been given together. I am thankful for these gifts, and I continue to remind myself how fortunate I am. Our lives are made up of stories. Our stories are what make us human. Our stories connect us. Our stories define us. So here's my story, my values, and why Federation means so much to me. My values brought me to Federation. They also brought me to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro in February of 2015, alongside 16 friends, teammates, who the week before were perfect strangers. That moment at the summit of Kilimanjaro, my commitment to the power of community was reinforced. And yes, my friends thought I had lost my mind, but my family already knew I had. I climbed Kilimanjaro to raise funds for the Livestrong Foundation. They provide support for cancer patients, everything they need. Looking back, it was one of the best experiences of my life. Give me a cause and a challenge, and I'm there. I had no idea at the time it would become so much more relevant in my journey. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer in 2017 and passed away on May 21st of 2019. He was the first man I ever loved and will always be the man that I compare everyone to. More than ever, that climb to the top of Kilimanjaro makes me realize that there is always a greater purpose. I have been married for 27 years to my husband, Rob, and we have 6 children. Jacob is 24, Emma's 20, Olivia's 17, Ari's 16, Noah's 14, and Millie's 13. Yes, most people think we are crazy, but I couldn't imagine my life any other way. I grew up in Buffalo, New York in a Jewish household, attended Jewish day school, and was bat mitzvahed. I went off to college when I was 17, got married at 21 while I was working on my master's in accounting, and gave birth to 3 children by the time I was 30. That's really where this chapter starts. Although we had 3 children, we felt like we didn't have enough chaos in our lives. We could have had another biological child, but we chose to adopt. Adoption was not a decision we took lightly. For each adoption, our entire family took a blind vote. And in order to proceed with an adoption, the vote had to be unanimous. Not once did any of us vote no. I remember asking Olivia why she didn't hesitate when she voted yes. She said, "Mom, we're talking about the life of another child. How could anyone vote no?" She knew I would have to commit countless hours to the adjustment of her new sibling, hours that would no longer be devoted to her. But never once were any of our kids resentful. They just joined in and helped out with whatever needed to be done. Now you can see I'm using past tense here because now that they're all teenagers and young adults, helping out is like a little bit more difficult to define for them. I recently had a good friend ask me what my aha moment was that led us to adopt. I can't say there was really an aha moment. We just felt and still feel that there are so many fantastic kids in the world just waiting for a family to love them, and we knew we could be that family. Noah, who is from South Korea, came home at 4 months old. His birth mother was 15. In South Korea, it was socially unacceptable to be an unwed mother. When I read over his file from the adoption agency, there was one detail that burned in my mind. His birth mother kept him for 2 days before relinquishing him. I often wonder what her thoughts were during those 48 hours. I can't imagine the pain she felt when she finally dropped him at the orphanage. What might have been her most painful decision was one of the greatest gifts we have ever received. And Noah turned our world upside down. From the moment I met him, he was a crier. He cried all of the time. He cried 16 out of the 18 hours on our flight home from Seoul to Chicago. He cried every time we put him in the car. He cried when he had clothes on. He cried when he was naked. He taught me a level of patience, the likes of which I didn't know I was capable of. But crazy but true, we still felt as if our family was capable of more, so we decided to adopt again. We fell in love with Ethiopia. Since we had already completed an adoption, we knew how the system worked. We knew that the majority of families that adopt want babies and toddlers because older children potentially carry emotional baggage. As a result, the older kids are left behind. Knowing this, the 6 of us requested an older child. Ari was 4.5 years old when we adopted him and brought him home. I was sitting in a Federation parlor meeting in Sarasota, the first Federation event that I had ever attended, when I received a call from our adoption agency. I walked outside to take the call. When I walked back in, I was crying. I remember saying, "We're having a boy." At that point, everyone had tears in their eyes. The picture I received of Ari depicted a little boy who was suffering. As he stood there in his tattered clothing, the look on his face was morose and heartbreaking. 2 months later, we traveled to Ethiopia to bring Ari home. As we entered the orphanage, Ari was busy eating his lunch. I cautiously approached him. He looked at me, gave me a shy smile, and offered me some of his food. I sat down next to him. He took my hand in his, and he wouldn't let go. That was all he needed. That was all I needed. Ari was 4 years old when his birth father dropped him at the orphanage and never came back. Ari's birth mother had passed away the previous year, and there was no one to care for him. Ari grew up in a mud hut. He didn't have electricity or running water, and with 5 older siblings, there truly wasn't enough food for him. He was starving. When I met Ari, he was recovering from the mumps. He had rickets, ringworm all over his scalp, and was completely malnourished. He has scars all over the bottom of his feet because he didn't own a pair of shoes until he was 5 years old. He had been through way too much in his short life, things kids should never have to endure. We had the opportunity to visit Ari's birth family and see where he grew up. We brought Olivia and Emma with us on this trip. They were 5 and 8 years old at the time, and it was amazing to watch them experience this journey. As we entered the family hut, my eyes had to adjust to the darkness within. The family had brought in some logs for us to sit on, otherwise the room was bare. We sat down and through an interpreter began a dialogue about Ari. We asked questions about the life he had here, and his father asked questions about our family. As we sat there, Olivia began kicking her foot back and forth, digging a rut in the ground. I looked at her and whispered, "Please stop making a hole in their floor. Olivia, this is their home. This is where they eat, sleep, live." Her eyes grew big as she looked at me in shock. This was a life-changing journey for all of us. For our final adoption, we again applied to adopt an older boy. Surprise! We received a referral for a 2.5-year-old little girl. We call Millie our grand finale because she completes us as a family. She lights up any room she walks into. 10 years ago, Jacob and I traveled to Ethiopia to bring Millie home. She was 2.5. She had the saddest eyes I'd ever seen. She was frightened beyond belief. It took 5 days for her to let me get near her without her crying or literally passing out. But with patience and persistence, on day 5, she let me feed her, and I knew we would be fine. She was by far the sickest of our kids when we brought her home. She had kwashiorkor, a protein deficiency that, among other symptoms, caused her to have an extremely distended abdomen. She couldn't sit up and could barely walk. She had giardia from unclean water. She had patches of hair missing from her head due to a severe case of ringworm. She was missing a toenail, a fingernail, and had a fire burn on her belly. When she spoke, she had a raspy voice from constantly being sick. It took her a year to get well, but kids are amazingly resilient. If you met her today, you would have no idea that she had such a rough beginning. Today, all of our kids are thriving. They all attend or have attended religious school and Jewish summer camps. Jacob is at Stanford finishing up his master's degree in material science engineering. Emma is a junior at Brandeis studying neuroscience. Olivia just started her first year at Fordham University Lincoln Center. Noah is a computer whiz. He still cries, but mostly when appropriate. Ari is an incredible athlete, and Millie is the glue that binds us. They are healthy, happy kids. But that's not the only chapter to my story. This chapter is where my federation story truly began. In 2011, my husband and I went on the National Young Leadership Summer Mission to Israel. Rob reluctantly went with me. He wasn't Jewish and was concerned that people would judge him or treat him differently. So he decided to not tell people that he wasn't Jewish. We had the most amazing experience on this trip. We visited Federation-supported programs and made connections and friendships with people we would have never met. Rob discovered his love and sense of connection to Israel. We sat down in our caucus to discuss the trip and what we felt was the most powerful aspect for each of us. He told everyone that he wasn't Jewish, how he was embarrassed to tell people this at the beginning of our trip, how this mission changed his outlook on religion and community. And then, with tears in his eyes, he said that upon returning home, he would start his conversion process. This is the power of federation. We had been married for 20 years. I had no idea this was what he was thinking, or that this trip would be so life-changing for our family. He studied for a year with our rabbi and completed his conversion in 2012, 2 weeks before our oldest daughter's bat mitzvah. As he walked on the bima for his first aliyah, I remember thinking that this amazing change happened because of our involvement with Federation. Rob became a bar mitzvah at Emma's bat mitzvah. His decision completed our Jewish family. I am so fortunate to have had amazing role models for parents. My mom grew up in rural Pennsylvania on a farm. Her mother had a 6th grade education. They grew everything, canned everything, and ate everything they canned. Her dad was a coal miner and worked in a local brewery. My mom was always a strong student. She kept her old report cards. Actually, she kept everything, including like a cookie from my bat mitzvah, but we won't judge on that one. She was a straight A student, except for PE, straight C's in athletics. She knew she wanted to be educated. When she was 14, she started caring for the kids of a local family so that she could save up money to go to college. She worked her butt off and was admitted to the University of Pittsburgh in 1957. She worked 3 jobs while in college, was admitted to medical school, one of 5 women in her class, and graduated medical school in 1965. My dad had a completely different upbringing. It's amazing to me that it took a Federation mission to Berlin for me to become really curious about my dad's history. I knew the basics, but didn't question my family history until I saw the Holocaust memorials in Berlin. My paternal grandparents were both born in Germany. In 1935, they moved to Prague to attend medical school. Things began declining quickly for the Jews, and my grandparents realized that remaining in medical school was not an option for them. My grandfather was an active member of the Zionist organization Hechalutz. Hechalutz was a Jewish youth movement that trained young people for agricultural settlement in the land of Israel. The Nazis were aware of his involvement in it, and he had no choice but to try to escape. My grandparents returned to Germany, hid in Berlin, and with the help of Hechalutz, began their journey to the British Mandate of Palestine, today the State of Israel. They spent 1 year in Denmark and 1 year in Italy as part of the agricultural training program. In 1937, while my grandparents were in Italy, my father was born. They moved to Palestine later that year with official visas issued under the British white paper quota. And when I say my parents saved everything, they save everything, which is amazing. My father grew up an Israeli. He lived in the land when Israel became a state. Although he was a child, he remembers people dancing in the street after hearing Ben-Gurion's famous speech on the radio. His parents never spoke German at home, and for that matter, they never really discussed Germany at all, but they were still proud of their heritage. When my father finished his commitment in the Israeli army, my grandparents encouraged him to move with them to Germany. They wanted to try to reclaim part of the life that they once had. He hesitated, but he wanted to be with his family. He moved to Germany in 1958 with the desire to attend medical school. He spoke Hebrew. He was an Israeli. He did not know German. His father had to translate for him at his medical school interview. Despite these hurdles, he was accepted and learned to speak German while attending medical school. Upon completing school, he was offered an internship in New York City, boarded a boat to the States, and met my mother while working with her at the hospital. She converted to Judaism, and then they were married. The rest is history. The choices that my grandparents and parents made helped create the life I have today. Everything in life involves choices. Think about what brought you here today. Think about your blessings. Think about the difference you have the power to make. Someone wise once said, "You must be the change you want to see in the world." More than ever, this change means being part of the collective. It means planning for the future of our communities and our people. It means engaging our children so that they too understand the importance of Tikkun Olam. My experience as co-chair of the Jewish Federations of North America's National Young Leadership Cabinet has truly been life-changing for me. I have had the opportunity to travel the world with a Jewish lens, to see the work that is possible because of our donations. I've seen firsthand the assistance we provide to Holocaust survivors, the elderly and children in places such as Azerbaijan, Turkey, India, Russia, and Ethiopia. I have had the honor of speaking to dozens of communities across the country, not only to share my experience with them, but to learn from them and feel the effects of Jewish values in action. And I have seen the impact our donations make in our local communities. I stand here before you, I sit here before you virtually as someone who is proud to be Jewish, proud to have a diverse family, thankful for the sacrifices my family has made, sad for our losses, and hopeful for our future. I'm involved with Federation because I care about the future of the Jewish people. I'm involved with Federation and give as much as I can to help kids like my own. No child should go to bed or wake up with an empty belly. No child should live without clean water. Every child should have access to medical care. Every child should have someone that loves them and cares for them. Federation does this kind of work here in the United States through programs in our local communities and overseas through our partner agencies. Even during the most trying of times, we must continue working to help repair the world. If we don't take the time to unite and show we are proud of who we are, nothing will change. We must not stand idly by. As Elie Wiesel said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. A different world cannot be built by indifferent people. Our donations and our commitment make real differences in the lives of children, in the lives of adults, in the lives of families. We give hope to the hopeless, serve as a voice to the voiceless, provide a family and community to those who were once alone. I want to ensure that we will always have a strong global Jewish community that will be there when we need them the most, united, together, each community intertwined like branches on a giant tree of life. Our federations are the driving force for our Jewish communities. During these unprecedented times, the Savannah Federation pivoted quickly to support the community, changing events and programming from in-person to online. And although their physical doors closed, they were never closed. The programs and services provided by the Savannah Federation continued without pause. Because your federation is dedicated to its community and its staff, keeping all staff working throughout the pandemic, understanding the needs of the community and its people. This is Federation. We are Federation. We do what we do for a reason. Tikkun Olam, repairing the world, one small act at a time. We are united despite our physical separation. Our families and our communities will be stronger than ever before. May our acts and thoughts of compassion and kindness be shared across the world. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone, for those incredibly inspiring and beautiful words. All right, so what a time to be alive, right? I feel like the last few months of our lives has been one big ball of uncertainty, but one thing has remained unchanged. Our Jewish community is there for us. Politics are difficult to escape right now, but casting political parties and views aside, we're Jews. Our values remain unchanged. We take care of each other. Through the height of COVID, the Federation still fed seniors over 4,000 hot meals and fed the minds of our community with food for thought. The recipients of allocated Federation funds dedicated themselves to providing meaningful and engaging programs while respecting social distancing. Not an easy task. The doors have remained open, whether physically or figuratively, for all who find support or for all to find support in whatever way they need it. This is a lot to manage even in typical times, but it happened because our community comes together. As a whole, the Federation made a monumental impact on the lives of many. And if you're here now, the Federation has impacted you and the generations that will come after you, no matter how subtle the impact may seem now. So I've been in Savannah for 12 years. I've been a wife for 11, a mother for 10, a Shalom school teacher for 9, a JEA board member for 9, and in my current profession for 3. Not a whole lot compared to some of you, but I consider it quite an undertaking. Every single part of who I am in some way has been touched by the Federation. I joined Young Jewish Savannah when I moved here, and I was certain that this was not the community for me. It didn't quite feel like home. I met my husband at an event at the JEA, and having limited options for a suitable partner, I was certain that this was not the community for me. I watched my children grow and wobble and say prayers and find excitement in being Jewish with their little chunky cheeks. And I had a number of discussions with my husband about how I was certain that this was not the community for me or for our family. But oh man, was I so wrong. The blessings of being new to a community is that you can choose whether or not you allow it to work for you. I was so certain for so long that this wasn't the community for me that I failed to see that it was working for me in ways that I never gave it credit for. Who would I be if I never attended the Young Jewish Savannah event and exchanged numbers with Matthew? My community was working for me in creating ways to engage those old and new to Savannah. My community provided me with books every month to read those little chunky cheeked babies and feed their love for all things Jewish and supported the values that we had in our home. My community exhausted those children that I swore would never, ever sleep by providing fun and engaging ways to be children and for us to take part as a family. My community has created impermeable friendships for all 4 members of our family, providing us with the opportunity to meet and love a diverse group of people simply by being Jewish. My community's allowed for discussion and debate and maintained respect. The community has fed those that were hungry and provided meals for those that may have the resources to cook for themselves, but just needed to see a smiling face. My community has allowed me the opportunity to share my love of Judaism and partner that with my love of teaching. The community has connected me with people who have become my family, the people I've shed tears for and the people I've shed tears with. The community's provided me with opportunities to serve the world around me and to show my children what it means to help simply because you can. My community has given me the education and the support to be successful in my career and to potentially one day lead. My community sent cards and phone calls and meals when my father-in-law passed away, a man that very few of you have ever met, because my community values family and my community values me. I've made incredible friends, some Savannah natives and others transplants who have made their life here partially because the feeling of home they find within our Jewish community. But the best part of it all is that no matter where I was in my life or what led me to that point, my community never left me. Always waiting. I am the Federation in action. And sooner than I can possibly imagine, the community is going to congratulate me on a bar and a bat mitzvah and graduations and weddings and grandchildren. And it will be with me to provide warm meals and warm hugs when the circle of life again greets our family. It will provide me with an outlet when my home is empty and I need to be around other people. It will provide me the opportunity to be on a list of people to receive meals, because there's some woman out there with small children who isn't quite sure if this is a community for her. And she signed up to deliver meals to teach her children what community really looks like. And she'll come and we will hug and I will thank her and I will tell her how beautiful her children are and how they remind me so very much of my own. And I'll invite her in and I'll tell her the stories of how my friends and I, decades later, still meet for lunch after having met through the Federation. And we raised our children together and we watched them become the amazing people that we are because of the support of our community. But this isn't just my community. It's your community and it's our community. And this is our Federation. Even if we don't see it, the Federation is working for us. It's the building community and sustaining community. What's the Federation done for you? Where would you be now? Where would your children be now without the camp scholarships that allow for exploration and adventure while creating connections and giving you a little bit of a breather? Where would you be if you hadn't heard that incredible speaker at Food for Thought that ignited you with passion to get involved or to learn more? Where would you be without that warm meal you needed? What about the peace that comes with knowing that all you have to do is discreetly ask and a bill that you're worried about will be paid, or the surgery you may need but can't afford is going to be provided for you? Knowing that your parents or your grandparents will never be lonely or hungry. How much is that worth to you? Because you aren't just giving money, you're giving security and you're giving family and you're giving hope. And I feel like no matter where we lie on the side of the political fence, we could all use a little extra of that right now. So I ask that you guys reach deep right now and secure the future for us and those that are going to follow. Thank you.